people. How's it going? Chocolate milk. Drinking champions. Or non-alcoholics. Or not people that drink alcohol. Well, I do drink rum on occasion. Anyway, what is the value of the draft? What's it good? Why do we need it? And what does grammar have to do with it? Anyway, when I started out my early writing stuff, I hated rough drafts. I wanted it to be perfect the first time. I wanted it to be right the first time, perfect the first time. I didn't want to have to deal with rough drafts. I didn't want to have to deal with editing or writing it over. I was young and stupid. Now I'm just old and stupid. But as time went on, and I grew older and older and older, I come to realize that I actually like rough drafts. I find rough drafts quite useful. They are there for a reason. It's called a rough draft for a reason for one thing. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time. In fact, if you're trying to make it perfect the first time, you're never going to get a story finished because it just ain't going to happen. Rough drafts have their value in the fact that you're writing the story, you're writing the bones of the story, or at least the slight roadmap of the story. These are lessons I learned on my own, unfortunately, hard way. I don't like editing. Well, I didn't like editing. And I didn't like writing rough drafts because I just wanted to get the story done, and there lies another problem. If you're writing a story just to get a story written, don't be a writer. Because you're wasting your time and the reader's time, and it's going to be crap when you're done with it. A rough draft is about figuring out what you're writing about, why you're writing it. You can do some minor editing while you're doing a rough draft. I do that. But a rough draft is about figuring out what you really want the story to say, what you really want to put in there, or what you don't want to put in there. You can write a terrible rough draft, go back over it, and make it into a good story. A rough draft is basically just bits and pieces of a story until the actual story is written. That's how I see it anyway. That's how I do it. I view a rough draft as just, trying to figure out how you want the story to go, what you don't want in it, what you do want in it. You need to add characters or take them out. Are you writing the story that you're going to end up going nowhere with rather quickly? Rough drafts are very good, in my opinion, in my mind anyway, in discovering that what you're writing is crap, and what you're writing is not going to work. What you're writing should not be written because it's basically a waste of time. I think rough drafts. I'm talking about what I like about them and why I view them and why I value them. Other people may never write a rough draft. That's fine. That's their way of doing it. My way is to write the story. I mean, literally just write the story as is, as it first comes into my head, and then go back over it, write it, edit it. But it's that first draft I'm trying to get across. The first draft literally doesn't really have to be 100%. It doesn't even have to be 50% of what you want to write. Trying to put every single thing into a story in the first draft will drive me crazy. It's drove me crazy because I've written enough stories like that I didn't like them. A rough draft, at least a rough draft is literally what it means. This is the story I'm trying to write. This is the road I'm trying to go. This is what I'm trying to do. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I mean, I've written a lot of stories that started out one version and became something else. I like writing rough drafts. One, I admit it irritates some people because they like to point out the grammar mistakes I make, and I'm thinking, I'm not done yet. It's called a rough draft for a reason. I don't need to worry about the editing right now. And I think that's a lot of the problems with people who worry about making a draft perfect the first time is they are so overthinking the To me, editing should be the last thing you do. The editing should be the editing and all that grammar stuff, all the punctuation stuff. That stuff you take care of on the final draft. I used to drive myself crazy worrying about all this stuff in the first draft. It's called a rough draft for a reason. It's going to be rough. It's going to have errors. It's going to have spelling mistakes. It's going to have crappy grammar. It's going to have every single thing that drives an English teacher crazy. Or the grammar police crazy. It's snowed, by the way. Snowed a couple of inches. Life in Minnesota. I mean, take the story I just got done. No more walks about losing a dog. And it is biographical. A lot of it's biographical. I changed the names here and there with some people. The dog names are real. Those are the actual names of the dogs. Some of the people names I changed. Oh, they would recognize themselves, believe me. I said nothing bad about them. I didn't have to. But it was a rough draft in the beginning in my head. I think it's another thing. I write a lot of my rough drafts in my head. I write the entire story sometimes in my head, and that to me is a rough draft as well. I think if you're thinking about this, I do a lot of thinking at work. Okay? When I'm not reading at work, I'm thinking about story ideas or commentary ideas or 10-minute study ideas on various subjects. But I will write the whole story in my head. To me, that's a rough draft. I mean, I'm probably making this probably more complicated. Maybe more. I'm simplifying it. I think you shouldn't be afraid of the rough draft. But I say this, I think I know partly why I'm saying this is I've run into people who want to be writers, who want to write things, and yet because it's not perfect the first time, oh, this is hard. Of course it's hard as writing. Writing's not easy. Particularly good writing is not easy. That's what the rough draft is for. And if you aren't willing to slog through the rough draft part, sorry, what is supposed to say? Sorry. I try to dress at least reasonably well, decently looking. Anyway, the rough draft by some of these people was really perfect the first time. What's the point of writing it? Oh, I can't write this. This is hard. Or no, you're not Mozart. Only Mozart could write something the first time and it'd be perfect. Ask Antonio Salieri and Amadeus. A rough draft. A rough draft. Another thing is a rough draft is a personal definition. I think as a writer, you have to define what you mean by rough draft by your own personal writing life. I mean, there have been writers who I'm pretty sure probably did write something one time and that was it. But I'm pretty sure most of them probably wrote something and then went back and redid some editing, rewriting, and stuff. As I said, in my early years as a writer and wanting to be a writer, I hated rough drafts. I didn't quite understand how important they were. I hated editing, and I didn't realize just how important that was. I just wanted to write the story. I didn't care any of the. I was as a writer in the very beginning of my writing life. I didn't deserve to be published, let alone read. It was that bad. I mean, I've had poetry published. It was very basic poetry. I enjoyed it. It was fun. But I'm trying not to make this complicated because I'm trying to give why I like rough drafts and why it's important to me. Other writers, they will use the rough draft formula their way. No writer has a right to tell another writer how to do their job. But I see rough drafts as just trying to figure out what you're trying to write about. When I started writing my story about Penny, I had an idea. The idea in my head was a rough draft. I even wrote the story in my head. What I wrote was a little different. I would say it's about 50% of what I was going to write, and about 50% of what I had to add as I did my own editing, my own rewriting, my own going over it and stuff. I know, and despite popular opinion, I do try to catch all the errors I make. And believe me, I know I make them. what to do. I know at least one or a few people who want to be writing and want to write stuff. If it ain't perfect the first time, I'm not going to write anything because it's not perfect. Well, then you're never going to be a writer. You're never going to learn. You're never going to learn how to be a good writer. You're never going to learn how to be good at anything. If it ain't perfect the first time, you're not Mozart. Mozart was. I know I've said that example already, but it's true. Mozart could write down on first drafts perfection. Beethoven might have done it, but Beethoven and Mozart are. Jesus. I don't know. I love Beethoven. I do have a bust of Beethoven right here. And a few busts of other people there, but they're small. But don't be afraid of the rough draft. I guess that's what I'm trying to get my point across, and I know that's very big job with it. I think the people who want to be writers who don't realize that you have to start with the bones of the story, the idea of the story. I don't even like using the term the bones of the story. It just sounds silly. It's the idea. The idea is where the rough draft is. That's where the seed of the rough draft has to begin and has to kind of grow into this, well, back of the word again, skeleton of a story. The other parts of rewriting and writing are putting the leaves and the fruit and everything else on the tree of the story. That's a terrible example. But I think I know what I meant. I enjoyed writing the story about my dog. I mean, it was painful because I missed my dog. But I enjoyed writing it. I like reminiscing. Brought back a lot of nice memories, and some memories I do not want to forget. It's already got 8 views on my blog site. People are reading it, which is good. They like it. I got 8 likes. That's good. But I think the problem people have with rough drafts, and again, by some of these examples, I know of people, they for some reason the rough draft has got to be the final word of the story. Well, that's not going to work. How many writers have written the first draft of the story and that's the way it remains? Doesn't work that way. Writing, good writing is, you know, being able to add to a story without making you look like you're adding to the story. Good editing or good rough drafting is being able to write the rough draft and then rewrite the story, but make it appear as if somehow you wrote the story just fine the first time. Does that make any sense? I think it doesn't, work that way. But that's how writers wish it would work. We would like to write it perfectly the first time, knowing full well we're not going to be writing it perfect the first time. You know. But anyway, don't be afraid of writing a rough draft. I suppose I'm addressing this to some people who just seem to think that the first draft that they write has to be the only draft, has got to be perfect or nothing. Write a rough draft, write many rough drafts. Rewrote one story about 10 times. It wasn't a very long story, but I rewrote it about 10 times. I just could not get it to work. I just did not want to be the story I wanted it to be. But, I kept writing it. This was very early in my so-called writing life. This is when I was still there. It took me a long time to appreciate the value of a rough draft, to appreciate editing and grammar. And when I say appreciate grammar, I mean to put more effort into caring. I cared, but not enough. Not enough that made the story really any good. They were written like somebody who really wasn't taking it seriously. And maybe that's kind of what I'm getting to. A rough draft is for people who want to write something seriously. And if they really want to write it seriously, they will rewrite it, edit it, scream at it, yell at it, threaten it, hug it, praise it, and curse it, and get it finished. Writers are weird. I'll be so glad when this cold is over. So cold. It's cold this winter. It was nice last winter. I mean, it was nice. It barely got below 20 degrees. It's been below, let's just put it this way, 10, below 0, below 0, warm. It's been cold. Then again, it's cold weather, cold winter. It's not called that word. I'm not going to use because when I use that word, it's going to put a little disclaimer on the bottom of my YouTube channel here thing, and I'm not going to give them that opportunity. But you know what word I'm thinking of? First word is begins with a C, and the second word also. Oh, I'm sorry. To me, it's weather. Sorry. I get it. I'm sorry. I'm not buying it. I know what winter is. I know. I'm a bad person. I'm a writer of that. But my point really is, you know what? I guess I'm doing this because I keep running into people, or like I'm getting the perception by some people that I don't want to write it more than once. Well, then you're not a real writer then. Unless your name is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, you're going to have to rewrite it. And when I mean rewrite it, I mean literally go through the story, add stuff, take care of stuff, edit stuff, get words correctly spelled. Luckily on my computer, it has spell check because I am I have dictionaries. I have all kinds of writing books. But I used to be. I really should just talk about my early attempts at being a writer. I divide my writing life into two periods: before the blog site and after the blog site. Before blog site, I wasted a lot of time. I mean, I have tons of stories written on those on flash drives and stuff, and they're probably good, but they really need to be rewritten, which is what I do onto the blog site. But I literally have two eras: before the blog site, where I barely was not taking this as serious as I do now, and then there's after the blog site. I guess that would be BS. Before BS, after BS. That's funny. Yeah, before the bullshit, after the bullshit. Okay, that's actually funny, but it's true. It's true. I mean, before the blog site, for some reason, all of a sudden made it very. Something clicked in my head. Something just simply clicked inside my head. Okay, if I'm going to really do this on a actual blog, on actual WordPress.com site, if people can actually read this, then I'm going to have to take it a little bit more seriously than I've been taking it. And it's also when I finally got my first short story published. Not on my blog site, but an actual book you can find on Amazon. It's a collection of short stories with other people's short stories. I'm just one of 9 short stories in this little book that does exist. You can find it on Amazon. But anyway, I probably struggling to make sense to some people, but you know what? I like doing this YouTube thing. I like talking about writing. Um, I, as I said, before BC, I literally wasted a lot of. Actually, I don't think I wasted a lot because I learned a lot. What I did was I wasted a lot of writing opportunities. I wrote a lot, but I didn't write anything I really would not want. I would not want to rewrite now. I want to rewrite everything that I wrote before that point. And after BC, it works. Don't be like that. No BS. Sorry, BS. It became important. What I wrote all was. It's like hard to okay, are you going to be an amateur or are you going to be a professional now? That's probably the best way to put it. Are you going to be an amateur writer who doesn't care if it sounds good, reads well, or anything else, or are you going to take this seriously? And I mean, I'm at the moment I'm at 389 different subjects and other things on my blog site. Almost up to 400. I started my blog site in April 2016. I am going to close this so that I'm talking for 29 minutes. But I'm going to try to do another one in about, well, about 39 minutes from now. Somebody keeps popping on. I went up with the other guy who was, I'm not really sure it was a bot, or wasn't a bot. But anyway, I should do a video on my, on the BS and after BS blog site. In case you're wondering what I mean by BS. Oh, I know you too. They're probably wondering what does he mean by that. Blog site. Yes. And no, I'm not going to say that word. Anyway, hopefully my ramblings didn't bore too many people. I like doing this, people. I don't take it seriously. Like, share, subscribe, comment, please, and subscribe. Behave yourselves, people, because you know I'm not going to.